Napoleon's Beak by the Alphabet Store. Napoleon was a smaller puffin. Ever since he remembered, he had been called Tiny Tim, the Youngling, which this nickname made no sense since he was older than many in his grade, or Bigfoot, also because he was the opposite. His name didn't help at all. Had his parents tried to be funny? Naming him after a very well-known short human. He had always been friendly with the others, and his mother comforted him with the fact that once all the young puffins' beak changed, they would all be the same. Napoleon waited anxiously for it to get warmer and for his beak to change color. Finally, he would be like everyone else. "Incoming!" his father grunted, flying in with his mother closely behind. They had been together for so long now, they synchronized each movement perfectly. His mother was trying to say something. "Spit it out already," laughed his father, while his mother opened her mouth and a dozen of fish fell out. "Breakfast!" she shrieked. All of a sudden, his brother and sister came flying down. "Thanks, Mama," blurted out Alexander, his brother. "I can't wait to go out. Have you seen how warm it is going to get today?" asked Louise. She was the oldest and was already looking for a mate. It would be any day now she would leave them to start her own family. "Already?" Napoleon asked casually, as if he hadn't been counting the days for it to get warm. "Yeah, all my friends' beaks are changing already. Any day now will be our turn." And she hugged him, flying off with a fish in her mouth. Days passed. Napoleon was nervous, but his mother kept saying, "Any day now." Things with his friends had gotten worse. Now he was not only the small puffin, he was small and had a different beak. How could this be? "We all have our own schedule, Nappy." He hated when his father called him that. "Don't worry, your time will come." So, he waited. A few weeks went by. Napoleon was flying home one day when he heard someone behind him. He brushed it off and kept moving. He didn't have time to react. Out of nowhere, Marcus and the others had pushed him, distracting him mid-flight and causing him to crash into a pile of rocks. His crash was so hard that he kept on falling until he hit the ice. The last thing he heard was Edward saying, "Oh, Marcus, I think we really hurt him. Let's get out of here." And then, darkness. He could see at a distance someone coming towards him, but it was so blurry, or was it his own vision, that he could only make out a dark shape. "Are you okay?" he heard someone say. "Julia," he thought. "She is here to save me." Napoleon had loved Julia ever since he saw her and was sure she was going to be his mate. If only he was larger and this beak, this stupid beak that doesn't change color. "Hey kid, wake up," said a hoarse voice followed by a soft paw caressing his face. This was definitely not a flipper. Definitely not Julia. Napoleon opened his eyes to see a long nose, reddish fur, and sleek eyes. "Ah!" he shrieked, moving away from the fox almost immediately. "Relax, I'm not gonna hurt you," said the fox. "But what happened to you? I thought you puffins could fly." He laughed. "Stop! I don't need to have another thing to add to my list that makes me different," Napoleon screamed, almost crying. "Okay then, just checking if you are okay," said the fox, slowly walking away. "No, wait! Don't leave me here. I'm sorry, it's just that my beak, it's supposed to change color and, well, nothing has happened. I don't think I can go back home. They keep hurting me for being different," said Napoleon. He sounded and looked desperate. I see. I have an idea." "Can you walk?" asked the fox. Napoleon nodded. "Okay, follow me. By the way, I'm Flucky." "Napoleon." To which Flucky burst out in laughter. "Sorry, kid. Your name just fits." They walked for what seemed an eternity until they reached a small cave. Inside the cave there were 3 little gray buckets. "Et voila!" said Flucky. Napoleon was confused. How are these buckets going to help? And as if he read Napoleon's mind, with his snout, Flucky lifted each of the 3 lids. One by one, colors that Napoleon had never seen as intensely burst into the cave. Red, yellow, white. "This, my friend, is what humans call paint. I found it in this cave a while back," said Flucky. "Now let's change that beak of yours." With his paws, he carefully covered his beak, first in red, then in yellow, then added some white, and at the end mixed the three to make a bright orange. Well, I'm no artist, but what do you think? And moved him over to a piece of ice so he could see the reflection. Napoleon was speechless. His beak was so colorful. Wow, Flocky, you really did it. I mean, when you first started saying that you could help me, never in my wildest dreams did I think you could do this. And he trailed off saying over and over how grateful he was. I'm glad you're happy, Napoleon. Now you should get home before your family gets worried. Do you know your way back? Asked Flocky. Yes, of course. Thanks again. And Napoleon left happily with his new beak. Wait until Julia sees this. Or Alexander. Haha. He had been flying for a while now. I'm so lost, he thought. I am cold and I shouldn't be cold. Today is a warm day. This is definitely not the air I live in, if I am feeling so cold right now. So he decided to stop for a bit to find his way. Napoleon put his beak in the snow to warm up a bit. This oldie but goodie trick always helped. If he didn't shove off the cold, he wouldn't be able to focus and find his way back. He decided to walk a bit to ask for instructions. Better safe than sorry, he thought. He had walked for a few minutes when he saw something hopping in the distance. He had a bit of trouble making out the shape. If it had been winter, he would have never seen it because of the white fur. But since some of the snow was melting and this rabbit was still white, its camouflage wasn't working anymore. Hey! He screamed out. Terrible idea. The rabbit immediately hopped faster. No, wait! I need help! I'm lost! Said Napoleon, to which, to his surprise, the rabbit stopped mid-hop, turned around and hopped towards him. Hey there! Are you okay, sweetie? Asked the rabbit in the most heartwarming voice. Not really. I'm kind of lost. See, I followed this fox. To which she opened her eyes in horror. No, wait! He's gone! I'm alone now. But he was the nicest. You see, he helped me change my beak, pointing to it happily. I don't understand. What happened to your beak? Asked the rabbit. What do you mean? The colors? He was still pointing happily. Honey, what colors? Your beak is black, she said, pulling him over to a frozen lake so he could see his reflection. To his disbelief, all of the colors were gone. What? But we painted it! It was the nicest combination. You would have loved it. And so would have Julia, and that would have been shut up Marcus up and Edward. The rabbit was just staring at him quietly. Maybe I can help, said the rabbit. Really? You're the absolute best, Mrs. Rabbit. Please, call me Kristen. Kristen started getting together a bunch of twigs. After that, she got a few leaves she found lying around. Most of them were orange and yellow, a few white ones. Then she got berries and burnt wood, and her creation began. One by one, she pieced the twigs together, then adding the leaves in a strategic way to finally adding some color. There! She reached out and handed over a beak-shaped twig leaf object. Wait! Forgot something! And she hopped off quickly, coming back with a long, flexible twig that would stretch around. She made 2 little holes and put in the string twig. Come over here, said Kristen, and tied the fake beak around Napoleon's real beak. That will do, she said proudly, observing her creation. Napoleon ran towards the lake and saw, with great pleasure, how his beak looked colorful. He was ready to go back home. After a few instructions, Napoleon thanked Kristen for all her help and flew off in the right direction. He was flying a little bit above ground, had to fly over the sea. I would have never made it home if it weren't for Kristen, he thought. And just when he was about to reach land again, he heard a horrible noise. To his surprise, he looked down and an older-looking narwhal was screaming out. He was definitely in pain. Napoleon changed path and went full speed towards him. What's wrong? Asked Napoleon. I'm stuck. It seems my horn is tied up in some plants and I'm not sure I can see. Can you help me? Let me see what I can do. Napoleon landed on some rocks and started to see that his horn was terribly knotted into some plants and the only way through would be to break them. Okay, I can definitely help, Mr. Narwhal. John, Mr. Narwhal was my father, he chuckled. Well, he looks like old enough to be my grandfather, thought Napoleon. At least he still has a sense of humor. He reached down to bite into the plant, when to his horror realized he couldn't because of his new beak. No worries, he thought. I'll just put it right next to me. He took it off and placed it on a rock next to him. After a few bites, he successfully released John's horn, to which both cheered in celebration. You are the kindest young Puffin. What is your name so I can always remember you? Napoleon, sir, he answered shyly, waiting for the usual laugh that everyone always had. A very appropriate name for your bravery. To which Napoleon blushed. He had never been complimented because of his name by anyone except his parents. He made sure John was okay, said his goodbyes, and reached out for his fake beak. That to his horror was gone. The current had whisked it away. Oh no! Now what was he going to do? His beak was no longer fixed. John was gone, it was getting dark, he had to get home. There was nothing he could do. He disappointingly started back home. He reached his village, starving, tired, and ready to call it a day. He was about to reach his home when he heard someone call out. It was Julia. She can't see me like this, he thought. He had been hiding from her ever since everyone's beaks had changed. Suddenly, he decided he no longer cared if his beak was different. That was who he was, and hey, he helped someone today. Stepping up, he turned and saw her. Her beak was absolutely beautiful. The right amount of red, the perfect tone of yellow, and a dash of orange that made her unique. Nice beak, he said, meaning it but rather sad. You're not so bad yourself, she answered back. I need to get home. See you tomorrow? And she flew away. Perplexed, he got home to where his mother saw him and started screaming in joy. Nappy, your beak, it's finally here, I told you! Had some paint stayed on? What was she going on about? To which he turned and saw his reflection. His beak was colorful, even prettier than the one he painted, cooler than the fake one. At some point, after meeting the narwhal, his beak had changed color. It really had been a process of good things coming to those who wait. What Napoleon also didn't realize was that when you stop paying so much attention to insignificant things is when the unexpected happens.